the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible. We called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Siebert.
Hey, how's it going? This is Combat Vet Vision. This is a chance for me or whoever I have on here as a guest, talk about our opinions, our life stories, situations that we're familiar with, and our life experience. This is to educate the public and give the opportunity for a combat vet that might be dealing with some things, um, some stuff to bounce off of, and maybe have something that's going to relate to them. Um, but whatever it is, we're going to talk about it. And luckily, I got Francisco Carrera, Pancho Carrera on deck from the Field Op podcast, and literally inspired by this podcast. But he's really gone the distance. I didn't know he was so serious about it, but he's got an awesome podcast, the Field Op, doing some really cool things. You know, Francisco and I go way back to just dealing with stuff together. He's been in warrior groups together. We understand a lot of these principles that are going on. Your first introduction to my podcast, you broke down in tears telling your story. I think that therapeutic effect to things that we deal with is super outstanding when we have the opportunity to open up and talk about something that's really hard. And right now we're dealing with the holidays, and this whole podcast is really going to be dedicated to, talking about why it's so difficult for some of our vets and ourselves in dealing with the holidays and what it means, what it causes, the different directions that you can go in your mind and get lost in, and family and dealing with your own demons, and maybe coming out and having to express that. Family starts to see how we're being, and maybe they get concerned. There's a lot of issues there. So thanks a lot, Pancho, for being here.
No, likewise. It's always a pleasure to coming on Combat Vet Vision, and talking to vets, talking to you, and reaching out to other folks, and hopefully we're able to, if somebody's out there listening, that we're able to make a difference. So that we don't have to deal with another statistic. That's always a positive. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And there's resources out there, and you can see them in the show notes. You can see them all over my podcast. You can see them all over Pacho's podcast. You can see them even in my personal Facebook, all these different things. But let's talk about it. Getting into some of these holidays. We just got done with Thanksgiving not too long ago, and obviously, that's where the concern starts to rise up. The expectations, we put these expectations on us for holidays, commercialized situations, family wise, the pressure starts to build. Let's talk about that a little bit, and tell me your thoughts on some of these things that are in your mind, the difficulties of this.
Well, the holidays are always a tough time. I think for not just service members or veterans alike. I mean, it's one of those things. And yeah, it's much easier. It's very easy to say, hey, it's like you just said, oh, this is just a commercialized holiday. It's not about that, so on and so forth. However, not everybody has, a loved one nearby, or, whatever the situation that may be. So, we're all different, and we interpret and process things much different than any other person, than myself or you. So yeah, it does affect people, and some may say, oh, it's not a big deal. But again, what may not be a big deal to me might be a big deal to somebody else. And, every time you turn on the TV, you're going to see, a family movie, Christmas related, whatever. And that affects people. It's like, well, shoot, I don't have my, somebody nearby, or this, or a loved one. Now I'm sad. Now I'm going to sit in my room and drink, or whatever. Do something, that's a negative, has negative impact on things.
Yeah, I want to bring up, like after going to combat and really losing some friends, people I didn't know, but just hearing about it day to day, the different events, living through the explosions, going through all these different phases. And, you're like, hey, I do this for my country. I was told I need to stay on the wall, but now I need to go over that wall, and then I'm going to face the enemy, and I'm going to do this whole thing. And I have to expect life now as like I'm walking through death to get home. And you're just like the Walking Dead. And then you come home, and home doesn't look the same anymore because you were once just part of this freedom bubble where a lot of things didn't matter. A lot of things you didn't really realize that were super important to you maybe didn't matter. And all of a sudden you're evaluating your mind, you're evaluating these situations, you're wondering if you were led astray or or whatever it might be. But for the most part, you may have good memories too. You might be like, hey, I did my thing. I went and served my country. I had to walk out and face the burden of combat as mine. So I'm going to go back and really kind of just enjoy America. But as you start to enjoy America, it doesn't always look the same. The guy that's driving that doesn't use his turn signal makes you the most angry dude on the planet. And before, maybe that didn't affect you as much because now you're like, this dude has no respect for America's pride, or he doesn't care about the other guy. He's only in it for himself, when you just went and sacrificed yourself and so many others for this freedom. So you can get your mind wrapped around these ideas that kind of put you in a bad place, and you got to figure out how to manage that so that you can make it through the next part of your day. And then you go home to the family, and maybe you go to a fireworks show. And I'll give you an example of me, man. I really like fireworks because it's an example of what we never want to have to hear for real in our own country of the United States of America. Not for the reason why those sounds sound similar in a combat scenario. So when you're watching all these people and they're having a good time, they're partying, they're just talking to each other, and they're not really paying attention to the explosions. They're not really focusing in on it all. And my mind got wrapped around it for a while, and I kind of broke down in tears. And it just gave me this effect, like, where is it that things really matter? And then, we're just talking about, watching this Christmas movie, and you see, this fairy tale kind of movie roll out, and maybe your life isn't this fairy tale. Maybe your life is really dealing with a lot of things, the pressures of the family, the pressures of finances, the pressures of life in general. And obviously with inflation kicking in, there's all kinds of other issues. And, how you communicate is super important too. There's just so many different phases to this that, it just boggles my mind. But I think we lost Francisco, or are you still here? Well, hopefully he pops back on. He just got back to Texas recently, did a whole bunch of things. He's settling down his home in Texas and doing some cool stuff. But I got him on to get his perspective on a lot of this, because we've talked about it in the past and through many years of dealing with different holidays and coming to groups and kind of talking about it. He's got a great perspective on it. But my perspective on a lot of these things is that everybody's got a plan. Everybody's got some great thing that they're going to do, or something that isn't so great that they're dealing with. And there needs to be a balance in everybody's life to better come to terms with whatever it is that you're dealing with. What the anger, the frustrations, the all these different things. You need to be able to have a Macho, great to see you back, man. Yeah, you bounced off.
I'm out in the country, so reception is no bueno sometimes.
It's okay. Hey, I was just talking about the fact that you brought up the movie that you're going to see. It can be this fairy tale, and you might not have this fairy tale. You might be dealing with all the other pressures of life. And, you and I have gone through a lot of different phases of years going through these holidays. And, we've talked to each other. We've talked to other guys that are dealing with suicidal ideations, to pressures in their lives, to a lot of different things, because maybe they just don't feel good about things, and they they don't have all the coping mechanisms and skills, or they're taking bad paths of alcohol, abusing different things, and causing, a lot of different chaos in their own lives. But yeah, what do you want to talk about on that?
Well, everybody, in a negative way, they find some type of release, some type of outlet, or a way to get numbed up, rather than deal, because it's much easier to, blame it on an external source, or put fault on someone else, rather than to go internal. And now this is the many years of PTSD therapy and CBT therapy talking. So, rather than do what they call self-soothing, that when you're having a situation and that is, okay, I'm going through something right now. What is it? What am I, why am I feeling this way? And let's address it. Well, okay, it's because of this. Okay, I got these things going on. This is just temporary. It's just the holidays, whatever. It's really hard to do that. Trust me, it takes many, many years of being mindful, as well as, working with, a licensed therapist, and, to do that, rather than just, man, I'm feeling so crappy, I'm going to reach out for a bottle of opioids, or I'm going to reach out for a bottle of alcohol or whatever, and I'm just going to tune out, because it's much easier for us to do that, rather than to do the self-soothing and be able to realize that, and as cliche as it sounds, this too shall pass. It does, and believe me, I've been one on the receiving end of having a crisis, an anxiety attack or a depression attack, and and then now, it's much easier to do all that. When you're having all that, it's really hard to think, but eventually all that stuff does pass.
Yeah, when you talk about a lot of this passing, it's not always the combat PTSD too. And when we talk about PTSD, you may have childhood PTSD compounded on combat PTSD, or PTSD in general. And people are dealing with this, not just our combat vets, but like Pacho's saying, where is it that you in your mind say, hey, I need to ask somebody to help me. I need to go through some processes to be mindful, go through some mindful classes, or this and that. But a lot of times we say, you know what, I got this. I'll do it on my own, and I'll do it later, because right now I'm just escaping, and I'm going to drink this bottle of booze. I got some pills I'm going to take. The VA's got me loaded up on meds. I don't need to go to any class. I don't need to do anything. I'm dealing with it on my own. But what happens is you go home to the family, and the family sees you, and they see you in this state where you feel like you're okay. You look like you might be okay, but there's something totally off with you, and they don't know how to react to it. They don't know how to expect it. And then that causes maybe some problems and other issues that combined, and they're trying to get you help, but you don't want the help. So there's a lot of phases to that. And these demons start to creep in on us. And, we talk about the hypervigilance too. The adrenaline rush feels really good when you're hypervigilant, but it takes a lot of energy. You're trying to chase this like constant balance between energy and sleeping and working and managing your life. It can be really difficult sometimes without that help.
Right. No, and if you don't have any type of support system, it's difficult. Again, through many years of me, therapy, PTSD groups, and having that support system, I'm able to, with more clarity, do use those resources and those tools to be able to get back in that place when I'm going through something. whereas some people just don't have, again, they don't have that ability yet. So, it just, that weight becomes, bearing that weight, eventually, that pillar is going to collapse if there's faults and cracks, or falling. Since I'm going with that pillar analogy here, if there's a bunch of what do they call the that bug that eats wood? Oh my God, I can't. Termite.
Yeah.
If there's termites all
Termite.
over.
Yeah.
In therapy, we call those problems and issues, we call them ants. When I was going through intensive outpatient program at Camp Pendleton, we call it when the ants are coming on you. You got to be able to shake off the ants. Well, if these termites are eating at you, and you're the pillar, that pillar is just going to collapse unless you do something about it. Called Orkin or whatever. To get rid of those bugs that are on you. So where how do we reach out for help? Do we just say, hey, I can just suck it up, or do I lean on my battle buddy to be able to say, hey brother, hey sister, I need help right now? It takes a lot for an individual to come forward and hey, I have an issue. So that it's difficult. I know it because you and I have walked in the same shoes.
Yeah. And, I think about it, all this baggage we bring, all these things that we carry, we don't share very well. We don't communicate very well. Maybe we don't communicate to our family very well. And then when we do it out of, maybe super amount of love or anger, frustration. There's so many negative ways to do it that the positive ways get washed away sometimes. And the path starts to look really crowded, and it looks like maybe an impossible task. And so those thoughts start to seep in, and they start breaking you down. Like he's saying, the pillar starts to break. But what you got to do is you got to shore up that pillar with, techniques that you feel like you could accomplish. And this isn't going to happen overnight. This isn't something that's like going to grab on. First of all, maybe you just need a battle buddy. Second of all, or first, you just need to admit to yourself that you didn't go to combat by yourself. You didn't do anything in the military by yourself. There was always a support network for you. And it took a lot. I used to ask the Marine Corps all the time, one of my favorite jokes to ask them was, hey, when we go on this mission, man, if you had to give up one, would it be calm or the corpsman? And they said, well, Doc, I certainly hope you know some calm. Because you need all those support elements. You got logistics, right. You got all these different things in the military. You didn't do it alone then. What makes you think you can do this alone? Sometimes, and what does that look like? What does that good path look like? One step at a time. It's not a fast moving pace at all. It's something that you just have to constantly grab and work on. And, I'm going to say there's some amazing organizations out there that help, that are available. Being part of Warrior Built Foundation, the PTSD Foundation of America, running warrior groups, being involved with so many other elements, Operation Silver Star with funding, Semper Fi Fund. I mean, there's a list, and ones that I've been part of, like Operation Silver Star. I mean, Warriors in Quiet Waters, getting out and just doing something with some vets from time to time really sets up a pace and maybe an example of how you can start moving in that positive direction. Pacho, you can throw out some too, man. I'm gonna think for a minute and I'll throw out some more as well.
No, I mean, there's a lot of organizations like you name, several that I've been a recipient of their help, as well as, I've volunteered my time, to pay it back. The VA too has some good resources. Yeah, some people would say, well, I know a lot of us have some preconceived notions about the system. However, it's still there, and it's not perfect, but I use it. I mean, I'm still, I do, CBT therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy myself and I do it via telecommuting. So, I'll have, which by the way, she's going to be a guest Dr. Jackson's going to be a guest on my show here in January. So, and she'll talk about, the trials and tribulations because she's a vet herself. And so and the things that she deals with, with veterans, so utilizing your resources, overlapping overlapping coverage, and that's how you get a bang for your buck. So it may be some redundancy, but if you are right here on the higher level of the plane in regards to needing help, than somebody else that's already got using their tools. So if you're high risk, I highly recommend that you use every bit of help that you can and utilize those resources to your advantage until you get to much, into a place where you can do maintenance. And yes, because it'll still be there, and you may have episodes, so on and so forth. However, you'll have that much more in your cargo pockets that you can utilize and reach out. Okay, well, this isn't working right now. Let me put this one back. Oh, yep, I remember this one because I heard it in PTSD group, Warrior Built, one of the guys over there, so on and so forth. Or and just like that until you find something that, oh, this works right now. This is great. I'm okay now. Until next, whenever that may be.
Yeah, and one of those shows I want to have on later on is, a lot of people say, "Hey, I know the path. This is the way. What you got to do is my program. Blah 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 blah." That's for somebody who truly maybe made it themselves through that path. Maybe they have that path, but not everybody's going to be on that same path. Not everybody's
Right.
going to grasp the same meanings or the same concepts, and so sometimes you got to be a little bit leery of that. And I want to say that there's some really awesome organizations that have some great plans, and you're going to go through these programs, but still you're going to fall back sometimes. And I've seen guys that fall back from doing some amazing programs, and then they take the next program, and that's the one that has helped them. But it was a combination of the one before it and the one before that. You just never know what's going to work for you. And I just want to put out there, I got Joseph Bruno on, and basically he's saying, a couple of things that's really cool. And he's from Project Refit, and Project Refit does warrior groups on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays live on Facebook. And it's for first responders, veterans, a lot of different things where guys are dealing with some really awesome stuff and incredible, meaningful stuff. And they have a truck that's pulling a trailer around. They're meeting up with vets and helping guys out throughout, or first responders, or anybody that's dealing with some stuff. They're really making a difference in that pathway. But he brought up some really cool stuff. They're not doing it on Wednesdays anymore, but he basically said he's not allowed to say I'm fine anymore. So often it's like, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. And in your mind, if you keep telling people that, you skip a possible cool meeting with somebody that's like, hey man, I'm really dealing with some stuff. I don't know where to talk about it right now. I don't know what I'm doing, but you never know when that person's going to be like, oh yeah, let's talk about it. And maybe it's going to give you some opportunity to let some stuff off, just enough steam where you go home and you sleep tonight, and you wake up tomorrow. Because what we don't want to have you do is not wake up anymore, and not making these small differences in your life will eventually get you to a purpose in your life. Hopefully that'll be pretty good. And another thing you brought up is a lot of times we say the system sucks. When you talk about the VA, the VA, I hear all these issues, and I understand too, because I've been in the situation, but it's better than nothing. And there's so many countries out there that have nothing. So many countries that actually went to combat with us in Iraq and Afghanistan, they don't have anything. But the VA sometimes has something. But I've sat in seats inside the VA in classes that I thought were really good for mindfulness, for Montrum, for some of these really interesting things where there's empty seats in there. But everybody has PTSD, but there's these empty seats. It starts off pretty full, and then as it goes, people just say, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore or whatever. So I'm curious to see, what is it that's working for you? What organizations are really awesome? Where does the rubber hit the road? These are the ones that I'm interested in. And Pacho, you could fill in anything on that. It'd be great.
Well, no, you brought up a couple of things too. And, now that I have my social media account, because I detached from all that stuff last year, but since I have a podcast, I had to reinstate it so I could promote it and so on and so forth. But I read a lot of funny memes and a lot of serious ones. And I don't post photos anymore, and there's a reason why I'm getting to all this. But I saw two things that you mentioned in regards to therapy and using different resources. What doesn't work here may work there. So I heard somebody say, and he was in the Marine Corps, and he was one of my coworkers here. He's no longer at that job site with us, but he said you can't beat a cow with this. You can't beat every cow with the same stick. So with that being said, what one stick may work on this cow might not work on that cow. You know what I mean? So when it comes to therapies and such, you gotta find, it's not a marriage, just like meds. Meds are not a marriage. Hey doc, this med is not working, it's making me feel like this, so on and so forth. Okay, well, we'll give you this. Hey, this therapy is not working. Let me try this other group, that it's for me. I don't do well in group sessions. When I was in intensive outpatient program, in IOP, when I was in the Marine Corps, I did more one-on-one because I just couldn't connect with some of the people in there because, there were different paths. But I connected better at Warrior Build. So, this old dog did learn a new trick, and I could connect on there. And then another thing that you mentioned was that, I'm fine, saying I'm fine. Oh, I mean, you hit a nerve on that one because that's what I do. And so another meme that I saw on social media, kind of bring it back, since I read a lot of memes now, and it's fun. But when we're kids, we're allowed to get attention. As an adult, we go, we don't do that. We don't want the attention, so we go quiet. But yet that quietness is super loud, where people are you okay? Are you okay? And you're like, I'm fine. I'm okay. And so being able to say, hey, I'm not fine. I'm not okay. And that's okay too sometimes. And just releasing some of that, it helps out a lot. And, going back to utilizing and being able to say, hey, I need help. I need somebody to, I need a bottle buddy. I need something because this is not working out and I don't think I'm going to make it. My load is getting way too heavy. This burden, I just can't bear this burden. So you got to be able to ask for the help. And if there's any family members here on watching, sometimes being able to step up for them, and just like my wife did when I was at a critical point in my life. She's the one who reached out to you guys, to Warrior Built, and that's how I reconnected with you guys. So that too.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize on that too. It's like there's going to be a lot of times where someone says thank you for your service, and a lot of people take it in like weird places, and they don't feel like worthy to get asked that, or they feel it's just a cop out from somebody. But it gives you an opportunity to communicate again to somebody who might just be willing to want to listen. And even if they don't want to listen, it's a good opportunity to give them a little bit of history, a history of like not just you, but our service members and what they've done. What it's an opportunity to kind of open up a communication, a dialogue for a quick minute or two, and maybe even longer. You never know where that's going to lead. But what you don't want to have a path lead to is the end. You want to find those pathways, even if there's crazy obstacles and bushes and trees and logs and mountains to climb. You still want to climb them. You still want to try to get over them. And whatever is working for you, and all of a sudden it doesn't, don't get discouraged. Grab a hold of the next thing that looks like it might be something that can go. And there's so many things. And when I talk about what is my therapeutic effect, it's being right here with Pacho tonight talking about this. For one, I'm telling you, this is therapeutic effect for me. You know, we
Same.
kind of have to reflect our minds and deal with things in our own heads, and even say things to ourselves that are like, oh yeah, I should be doing that. Maybe I should, there's that organization. Yeah, I got to hit them up because I haven't talked to them for a while. And there's this and that. And I'll say, the PTSD Foundation of America is a huge one for me, and Warrior Build is for me. This weekend I'll be on duty. I'll be on duty for the Christmas weekend, meaning like if you call the crisis line, they're going to direct you to me, and I'm going to be putting that out on Combat Vet Vision, as well as I'll put the crisis line number. I'll put some stuff out that I'll be on duty, and I'm proud to be available, and just to talk, just to push in a direction and see where we might need to take you and where we can get you the help, support. But it's got to be on you too. You as a person, you got to take that personal responsibility to say, hey, I need to really change something to make a difference for this direction or that direction, and be willing to do it. We all had to be willing to do that. We all had to be willing to go to Warrior Group, or we all had to be willing to take a chance and put our stuff out there. Because you got to trust somebody to do that. And it's hard to trust. It's hard to open up. And where do you find that trust? You want to just trust that whatever you do, you're going to trust yourself in releasing some bad stuff so that you could carry on tomorrow.
Right.
And, I talk about it all the time. You might not sleep tonight too well, but tomorrow night you might, because you processed it today, because you opened up about it and you did that. So feel free to add some more stuff to that, Pancho. And
No,
I know we got a couple more.
Yeah, it's easy, talking about it. I mean, you and I both know it's easier said than done. But you got to be able to, at some point in time, just release. We're and when we're a high risk or really tense situation, we're kind of like that pressure cooker. And it has the little thing on the top that releases pressure once it gets boiling super hot. But you got to be able to release a little bit at a time and just release some of that. Talking to somebody, and then as you get better, before you know it, that pressure will be low enough where you can remove that pot off the of the burner or whatever, and be able to pop it open and see, okay, now I'm able to see what's in here. Let's see what stew is brewing in here, and let me address these issues now that I've been able to release some of this in a positive way, some of this things that I got going on. Whether you do it, you have to lean on your family, and that's the hardest thing, or on anybody, be able to lean, because by you saying I'm fine or I don't want to talk about it, all it is just you just cram. It's gonna come out some way, somehow. It'll come back. So might as well. And your family wants to be involved. I know that. I feel so much better now that my kids are older, and I'm able to tell them, this is what I got going on, or this is what happened, because you want to bring them they want to be brought into the fold, and so does your wife and everybody. So now when I'm heading in that direction, my wife will say, well, I think you need space. I'm going to give you space so you can process. And then whenever you're ready, I'm here. Or my daughter should be, hey, what's going on? Or my son, hey, what do you got? You got something going? Well, I do. Do you want to talk about it? Not right now, but when I'm ready, I'll hit you up. And they're like, okay. And I do circle back, and same thing. So whoever's out there, these times are not easy. They're and they bring back a lot of memories, battles that have gone, battle buddies that are gone as well, and you just gotta be able to know and know that, there's guys out there like yourself, on standby, ready to talk to them, and then you're doing the good fight, through these podcasts and these things that, well, shit, I can relate to this guy. Let me reach out, and I know he's gonna be on duty tonight. Let me talk to him a little bit. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and these things don't like Pacho says. I mean, he's got a lot of really good coordinated efforts for his family now, but they didn't come easy, and
No.
they took a lot to put together so that you could talk about it and give them the information they need so that they could feel comfortable enough to come to you with all these cool things. And obviously it's changed a lot. I mean, where do you find your passion? Pacho is a really good example of being a supporter for a lot of different reasons, for the safety programs that you were part of that push guys into some jobs that they got, to now running a podcast that, it's your passion to kind of run this podcast because you did it once with me, and you're like, hey man, I think this will be good. And I remember we talked about it, but I didn't know how real you were about it, because I wasn't that real about my podcast, because Brian Colburn, who runs my podcast, Combat Vet Vision, and he does it through sitchradio.com, and he runs your podcast, The Field Op. He's like, hey man, you got a story, tell it, and get everybody else to tell their story. And I didn't know the therapeutic effect of that. And I didn't know the avenue that it would take. There's so many guys that have come on with their stories. And I really feel like, even though I've tried to tell my story, I've never really been able to tell it like it was, or tell it like the whole horror of war of how it really is cannot be expressed properly, because it has no relevance in society, and it's too really kind of a raw, rough, emotional roller coaster that I just can't bring it out of myself enough. So I feel like, even though I told it here, and I've told it here many times, and I've gotten other, I feel like our stories are sugar coated to protect the burden that we carry. We don't want to push. We don't want to push that whole thing onto other people, and it's really strange. But even though I don't do that, I still feel like I've gotten, and I'm getting enough of therapy by having you as my battle buddy, by having the warrior groups on Tuesday nights. And should you need a warrior group, look it up. The PTSD Foundation they're working on having a warrior group every single night. Project Refit has them live on Facebook. Check it out and make sure that you're getting involved. Even if you just want to listen to other people's stories, you don't have to talk.
Right.
Wait until you're comfortable enough to open up to that. But
Right.
it's baby steps in the right direction, on the right path, the path that's the opposite of not waking up tomorrow.
Exactly. No, you're right.
Any final? Yeah, we got about 4 more minutes, man.
Well,
what else you got, brother?
No, I just want to say that, use your resources. Come on and listen to the podcasts like these. I know you have many episodes where you target, you do different subjects, and then something in there. I always find relevance. I'm like, oh man, yep, I know what he's talking about. Same thing, not doing a cheap shout out, but come on, go look at my podcast. There's another one in, that there's stories in there and resources that I bring into the fold as well. And then there's many other, other podcasts out there that, there's something for every audience, in addition to utilizing the system, the VA, Semper Fi Fund, Warrior Build, PTSD Foundation of America. I could just go veterans transition support. I mean, I could go on, but, be there, use these things. So that way, you're not another statistic. We don't want you to be a statistic. We want, give us that burden. Come to, call Larry, call PTSD Foundation of America, reach out, but, somebody will get you. I got your back too. So,
Well, thanks, Pacho, for being on my show, man. Much appreciation.
Thanks, brother.
Hey, the shout out to the podcast he's talking about is The Field Op.
It's on Facebook and YouTube, on YouTube as well, and on Sitch Radio. So yeah, Sitch Radio, Thursdays at Pacific Standard Time at noon. So come on there and let's get some.
Good stuff, man. Thanks a lot for being on my show again, and
thanks,
I
brother.
love being on yours too. For those of you that are truly dealing, reach out and be involved. Check out the show notes below. This is my podcast. This is where We get to give our opinions. Sometimes I have sponsors, supporters, volunteers, all these different guys on here, combat vets that are really able to put their perspectives on whatever they're dealing with and whatever they're doing. And I definitely hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. I hope that whatever you're dealing with in life, that whether you're a combat vet, a civilian, whatever, you are involved in your life in a positive manner, some way, somehow, because the negative is really easy to get a hold of and it's right there in front of you. But the positive may be a little bit more um, difficult to find, but the reward for that is way better. So until next time, hey, strength and honor out.